Okay, so David, welcome to the show. It's nice to connect.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to having this conversation. It's been a while since I've wanted to have a chat with you because I think we initially met, gosh, it must have been around 3 years ago when you came and did a presentation for Oliver Barnett at the London Clinic of Nutrition on a training day. And that day has really stood out for me ever since, ultimately. You shared a little TED talk that discussed some of the research behind mindfulness and meditation, what's going on in the brain. And I've shared that video with so many clients since then. So thank you, firstly, for sharing it during your presentation.
Great.
For those people that might not be aware of you and what you do and your history, would you be happy to start with a little bit of a background?
Yes, I'm very happy to do that. Thank you for inviting me, and I enjoy sharing. So my background, my name is David Behrens, and my background is I've been practicing and studying and learning mindfulness and meditation. Sometimes I say my whole life. It actually began when I was 18 years old. I was in, many people have fun, I have fun with this. My accent is not English. uh, it's basically a New York accent. And a simple history. I began when I was very young studying sort of Eastern traditions at university and was so, I guess, enthralled by it, or sometimes at a young age, you kind of have a part of you that wants to learn something in a deep way. So it began to build, and then I met different great spiritual teachers and yogis and people who were masters of meditation, actually while I was in my university. So much so that I decided to transition from university, and I met a great teacher, a great master of meditation. And that led me into a very beautiful journey. Within a few years, I was in India. I became a monk of an Eastern order. So I was a monk basically from 1980 till, I guess, 2007, 27 years.
Wow.
So I was a monk of an Eastern order. It was very traditional, but at the same time, very universal. Because we would study all the different traditions and people would come from all different faiths. And it was also about learning how to take these teachings into the world and practice them. I transitioned from being a monk. I'm no longer a monk. And I think it was so I could experience all things in life. And for my journey was learning at a young age, being a monk, 27 years, now being a household, did that term, it means married, very happily married. And it was taking all those teachings and practices and study and learning how to place them in a clinical therapeutic setting. That's my specialty. So for the last 12 years, I've been living in England and practicing on how to take those traditions to support people for mental health, addiction, stress management, pain management, and just learning how to be in life so you can say the best can unfold within us.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, that story itself is fascinating. And I'm wondering if you're happy to, if there is anything to share, and if you're happy to share anything, did you experience any challenges coming from sort of India and being a monk for so long and coming back into, I guess, a different way of living, or was that a relatively?
I mean, that's a natural question. I'll have to give the answer almost no.
Huh.
And I would say I say no, because what I learned was about how to take care of my mind and how to access, you can say, the best parts of myself.
Mm.
So that skill continued even when I changed from wearing, saffron robes to wearing, right now I have a nice blue sweater on and simple trousers. And I took all those skills, and I also had the teachings, and we use that term, blessings of great masters. And I was very focused. I've always been a person who likes to take care of people. I like to be a carer, and I'd like to, even as a monk, I played that role. So for me, there was a continuation.
Mm.
I continued with all my practices. And it was a very exciting time too, because it was, oh, now I'm going to be taking them more in a clinical setting. So it was a whole phase of learning. I'm also a licensed homeopath, which is an alternative form of medicine. So I learned a lot about disease and health, and I studied Ayurvedic medicine. So there was a lot of excitement in the transition. And there's that term blessings, and I was very focused, and I had a goal. I wanted to continue, and I wanted to feel that the continuation would not end. But I say no because of my practice. I continue with my practices and the meditation and the mindfulness and the spirituality, and I'm resourced inside. So there's this great source of enthusiasm and energy, and able to manage when there are challenges, but there's a real resource. I've learned that.
Brilliant. And I guess that's testament to these skills when you have learnt them extensively, for want of a better term, because I think sometimes we can have these tools that we feel are effective when things are calm, but not necessarily able to access some of those teachings or that wisdom when challenges arise. Where obviously for you, you've had enough experience and teaching for that, which is amazing.
Yeah, I would say what you're saying is totally true. It helped me because I lived the lifestyle. It was 24/7. And it was a very busy lifestyle. As a monk, we worked very hard, but it was service. And I was responsible for food services. So sometimes it was 12, 16 hours of work.
Wow.
But it was done through service. And I was responsible for festivals and responsible for feeding thousands of people. And at the same time, I gave retreats. So I'd learned how to work. So it was just changing and continuing in a different way. But one thing I want to add, even a little bit of daily practice begins to transform one inside. It doesn't have to be living as a monk for 27 years. I've watched people, it's always amazing that even a little bit of practice each day of meditation, of mindfulness, of kind of getting quiet inside and resourcing the greater parts of ourselves, it happens quickly. And then, of course, it's true, it gets tested. We're in the world of testing now. Every human being is being tested now. And they're finding out, okay, what I learned, how did it serve me? And they're also probably asking, well, what do I need to learn?
Right.
So I can continue to take care of myself and manage. But you could start at any time, these things, because what I learned was natural. It was just gathering within oneself one's greatest qualities and abilities. And that's kind of what meditation and mindfulness is about.
Brilliant. So this is quite a big question, but I'm curious if there are any kind of global or universal lessons that you learned during your journey, if that makes sense. Were there sort of some, I guess, universal lessons that you took and have taken with you into clinical practice and into, or continuing with your own practice?
They continue in many ways. And there's a few themes that I found very important, and somehow they seem to match this time extensively. I'll choose one of them. Daily practice to connect. Now, what does that mean, connect? So many people now, it's about, they might be lonely, so they have to connect to others, or they have to connect to something inside of themselves to feel sort of a sense of they're not alone, but they have to connect. We also have to connect to our greater self inside, that source within us, the source of energy, the source of enthusiasm. We have to connect to the greater parts of our heart. We have all these different emotions. We can gain the skill to connect to our greater emotions. Many people speak of the power of gratitude. So each day we connect to our gratitude. Because if we're not consciously connecting, we are by default connecting. Because it's our human beings, we connect, meaning our mind connects to things. And we're driven to connect, but we have to gain the skill to choose what we connect to. That's inwardly and outwardly. And so I would say connection is very important. And, you read all these things now of how important that is. And people who are social isolating. I was going to give a whole talk with someone I work with, Steve Grant, and we were giving to help his clients and the clients I've met, and we were going to do a whole thing on loneliness. Great. And so connection is very important. And I'd say the other very important quality is discipline. Now, discipline, it doesn't mean not having, but it means sort of tuning into what you really need and not wasting your energy on that which isn't helpful or useful. Okay. So it's disciplining our senses and where our mind goes and what we listen to and what we hear. Just like if you listen to the radio, I mean, mainly now the internet, from morning, noon, and night, it's the same thing. It's informative, but if you listen now 8-10 hours a day, the brain is going to be filled with it. And then we might lose connection to gratitude. We might lose connection to that which is really important in our life. Like this morning when I woke up, the first thing I did, it was very beautiful. I connected to the rising sun. And for whatever reason, I went, wow, we're blessed now in England. It's sunny. And don't miss the rising sun. And it was beautiful. Okay, I'm in a very nice setting in the Cosworlds, but even if I was in a city, I'm sure the sun rising was beautiful. Or when you finally get to see it out your window. And I felt, and then I connected to the birds. I'm sure everyone, I would say, there was a whole Radio 4 recently that now the birds can hear each other. So they have a different tone. Wow. It was a beautiful Radio 4. And they said this is an amazing time in history because we haven't had this for this quiet. I don't know, could we go back 50 or 100 years? So and nature is like singing. And we have to connect to that. So connection, discipline. I'm sure I would find another one like kindness. We've heard so many beautiful things in my own neighborhood where I live. It's a beautiful little village. It's near the bigger village of Cirencester. And people on their own made the choice to help each other and put little stickers and call each person along the block of 100 homes. Nobody asked them to do it. And some people put on their windows, offer kindness. So it's very beautiful. People are smiling more. Of course, we keep our distance, which is, there's a lot of jokes on that. But there are more smiles. And I think there's more kindness. Maybe not everywhere, but a lot of the places. We could connect to it in ourselves and connect it into others. So I'd say those things, and I learned those as a monk, and I practice those now, uh, inwardly and outwardly. Connection, discipline, kindness. What would you say if you had to choose one word?
What would I say? I think compassion for me is one that sort of comes up a lot
Yeah, it's
in
beautiful.
my clinic. It's something that's I feel that we can lack ultimately. Certainly self-compassion. It's a really common conversation that I have.
Yeah.
And it's obviously, from my understanding, so in the literature and the research, it kind of is associated with kindness. Kindness is almost a component of the definition of self-compassion. And I'm really curious. I feel like I'm putting you on the spot, David, with all these like global universal questions. But another question that comes up for me is...
No problem. I love questions. I've spent my whole life studying and learning and practicing. I dedicated my life to it. So
Good. Okay.
I love questions.
I feel better now. So a question for me that came up during your answer was, and I'm going to generalize a little bit, but again, speaking to clients and friends, I think there's truth to it, which is, why do so many of us struggle with things you've been discussing, like kindness and connection? They seem, it's in some ways such fundamental, simple things that we should be able and capable to do, but I find that often we struggle to do it consistently.
Yeah. Why is different factors. I mean, when I work with clients, I do a lot of one-on-one work where I support clients with their challenges, or, it doesn't have to be major mental health. It doesn't have to be addiction. It could just be someone who's very successful, but just trying to manage big corporate stress and not taking care of themselves, as you were saying. Not in my studies, and especially now I'm studying the science and psychology, compassion is actually a brain function they're finding out. It's part of the brain. And it's built by the function. It's one particular part of the brain. It's either the left corner, they say it's there, but let's just talk about experientially. The first step in developing it is gaining a bigger picture perspective within oneself. So often we lose that bigger perspective, and as a result, we lose this thing called a little, because what happens is we get kind of caught. Maybe it's because of too much stress, or our stress response is on all the time, because due to life situations and how many of us are living. And now, of course, there's even more stress. And the issue is, we are never going to be able to change stress, but we can change and shift our relationship to stress and how we guide our mind. And I think in the 21st century, and especially now, we've lost the ability. I was just working with a client, and the person has everything in their world, everything. But the issue is not having everything. The issue is choice. How do you make the choice to do that which is going to support yourself, or self-care? Or how do you make the choice to help another person? You'll only be able to do that if you take a step back within yourself and see clearly. The ability, so we've lost that power. We've lost the power of choice. That's basically one of the main reasons. We have to build it back. We build it back by gaining a bigger perspective. Example is when I work with clients and they start practicing mindfulness and meditation, and they practice observing themselves within, they begin to kind of see things in a way that they're not caught on automatic pilot. Like in the stress response, we're caught in fight or flight mechanism. And we're not always making the best choice because we don't often have to fight or flight. Especially we don't have tigers coming after us. Now we have a disease that we can't see. And all we're doing is fight or flight. So that's a natural response, but you're only going to make the best choice if you can take a step back. There's an interesting analogy I used to use, and I'll have fun to see if you answer it right.
Oh, no.
And I'll let the audience. Which animal in the forest is the one they go to, for whatever reason they say, when there's a big fire? Maybe you know, because I gave a hint. This is like an African jungle. So we got tigers, we got lions, we got rhinoceros, we got snakes. We even have birds. I have others too. I won't list the other animals. Which one do you go to when there's a fire, they say?
Oh.
You got monkeys.
I'm not good at making decisions, David. We'll be here a while.
No, go for one. You only get one guess. The audience can think about it too. Who's ever listening?
Well, my thinking here is that the immediate ones that come to mind are just going to eat me.
Well, I'm saying even the animals want to escape. So who do they go to?
Okay.
They know each other.
Okay. I'm going to go with a type of birds. Do I have to name the actual bird, or can I just say bird?
No, bird is fine. Okay, we think the bird, but the problem they say in the story, the way I've kind of play with the analogy, they just fly away. They don't have to hang around. They don't have to worry. There's a big fire coming, and they don't want to get burned, so they just go in the sky and off they go. So that doesn't help everybody else. Okay, I'll make it easy.
Yeah. I might go.
In a Fun Africa thing, they say the giraffe.
Okay.
He's the only one who's above the trees, at least with these very big giraffes, and then hopefully savanna trees are not that high. He sees exactly where the fire is. So he knows, should I run right or should I run left? So this analogy, if we want to play with it, when we go into that state of being aware, we can make a decision what's best. But if we're not aware, we're just going to blindly go fight or flight. We might be going in the wrong direction. Now, to build the ability to be aware, you have to practice inwardly being aware. And that's called the observing capacity. A lot of mindfulness and meditation is based upon building that inner skill. The beauty is that if you do it even a little bit each day, where you observe within yourself, you actually build the brain capacity to then choose. You build back choice. Even when I've worked at times with those with behavioral problems where it's almost like addiction or major addiction, only when they're fully aware can they make the decision to go left or right or keep doing what they're doing. Otherwise, you're just going to go in an old pattern, which kind of caused the initial issue, the same repetitive, which we have inherited, et cetera, et cetera. Take a step back, pause. And this is also a very powerful practice because you also, when you take a step back and see yourself in this way, all of a sudden, empathy and compassion build for others too, because you realize that not only in you, there's you and how your mind is and your story and what's going on. Others have that too. And I've watched people who have lost that quality and it comes back just by practicing. Yeah. And now it's also in science and psychology and PhDs. And so I think one of the most important things is practicing a little to watch within yourself, be aware, and then practice making inner choices. Let's do a practice now. Rather than I'll give you a quick meditation practice. Okay. And those who are listening can enjoy this too. You can close your eyes now. Meditation isn't always closing eyes, but for a few minutes we'll do it. Just observe once, which means just be aware. Be aware of all three parts of oneself in this way. First, the body. Only if you're aware of which is tight do you kind of know how to loosen up. Sometimes we're working, and we never take a moment to stop, to be aware, oh, maybe I should stretch. Basics. So now just be aware within yourself. And then guide the mind to tune into a part that's comfortable or restful inside. Hands, back, or the way you're sitting. And usually that's enough to get the body a little more settled. Just like before eating, if you take a moment to be aware, then you will not overeat because you kind of know when to stop because your body is full, you know. Now be aware of your mind. Take stock for a moment on what you're thinking, what's happening there. Only if they know what you're thinking can maybe you change your thoughts or guide them to something that's more positive. And now observe, this is one of the main practices in meditation and mindfulness, your breath. And you'll find that just by observing your breath, there's a little shift. Of course, some people, it might be challenging if they're a lot of anxiety, but for the average person, you can just watch your breath for a moment. If your breath is tight or not balanced, for the final minute of this practice, I'd like you to breathe in and add 1 second to the in breath and 1 second more to the out breath. So it's a breath in, a little fuller, and a breath out. 1 more second, so you're filling the body with a little more life and evenness. Breath in, 1 more second more. And 1 more second out. And then just observe if there's a little bit of a shift of the body getting more settled or the breath a little more balanced. And of course, sometimes we can open our eyes now. We don't always have meditation. It might be time to go outside and take a walk. Open a window. We're still allowed to open windows, yes?
Yeah.
So, even if we're in our home, especially when the sun is shining, it's essential to allow it to touch your face. And we all know that in health. So we'll only be able to take care of ourselves if we become aware of the different parts of ourselves. And then, so in this little practice we did, I had you be aware, and I also had you guide yourself a little bit. It was 3 minutes, 4 minutes. If that is done each day in different ways, this is just a little sample, you eventually can apply it to life. Awareness and guiding. And then naturally, I believe, I've seen it happen, compassion grows and empathy. As you take care of yourself, you naturally in tune and want to take care of others. Or the opposite happens. You go fight or flight. I don't want to take care of anybody anymore. I've taken care of too many. The main issue was you didn't take care of yourself. That was what came to me when you asked that question.
That was a great answer. I really like that answer and that perspective. It definitely resonates. This idea of choice, ultimately. And it does go back to the TED talk that you shared with me so long ago, this idea of our, I guess, kind of our cognitive ability to make
Yes.
the better, so to speak, decision if we are not seeing the bigger picture, or if we are in a state of stress. We can't make the right decision, and we may not even see that there is a decision to be made.
Yeah, there it goes. And this is something we've lost. And I think we've lost it due to different factors. I don't know if there's more now, maybe. I'm sure if we look at statistics, they sometimes say there is more. And we also were not taught, I wasn't taught this when I was young. My parents didn't teach me. I had to go to India to learn all this. Now, our parents were lovely. They were very sweet, very kind. They did the best they could, but they weren't taught themselves either.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn it at school. I didn't learn how to take care of my mind at school. You know, I did learn how to multiply. I learned how to, but I didn't even learn how to build my brain functions. I would just, you know, of course, school is the best, but maybe a lot of the educators weren't taught either. So, yeah, and we know we're also on 24/7 with the internet and with phones. You know, the world has changed. And it's so interesting. We are all connected. So this term of connected, we really have to reflect on, because we're connected, but we're also now all connected with that which isn't positive.
Right.
We're all connected now with the virus. You know, we're all connected with the psychic energy of all the people thinking about it. So there's this power of connection has taken place. It's the evolution of this world. And no one could deny, you know, it's a different world now. And what we're experiencing, nobody could say they ever dreamed of. Maybe a few amazing psychics or people who had a gift of the future. But, you know, we're in a very new territory. And somehow we are all connected. So I believe it's now, maybe the next term is power of choice. We have to gain back that power of, you know, we're all being asked to take care of ourselves during this time and be wise. And only if we take a step back and become aware can we do that. So there's a lot to reflect on in this time. It's an amazing time and a very challenging time.
Yes, definitely. And in regards to supporting your clients through this process, you often mentioned, I think, often it will be a 3-4 minute exercise that they start with. And certainly something I found just having these basic conversations with clients is we seem to have an expectation that we need to meditate for a certain period of time, and that meditation is a certain, I guess, experience. And then clients often come back and they'll say, Alex, I'm just a really bad meditator. And, you know, they'll make a little joke around it. But is that sort of something that you see? And are there strategies that we can help people kind of navigate that?
Yes. The first thing is understanding. And meditation is a skill. So we build it slowly. And you can't expect to, if you've never played tennis, become a great tennis player or a skillful tennis player overnight. But if you just take the ball and practice a few times hitting it and do it in a fun, easy way and hopefully enjoy it, eventually, yeah, you get the hang of it. Tennis is you hit it, the next person hits it back, or any sport or anything, you know. So meditation is the same thing. What I found, even though, of course, I've practiced extensively, and then I learned how to place it in a clinical therapeutic setting. I found that even more important than the amount of time is the regularity. 3, 5, 10 minutes each day on a regular basis is so powerful. And I would guarantee, if you practice each day even within 1 week, there will be a change. A little, or maybe a lot. I've heard a lot sometimes, and then I've also heard a little sometimes, but I've never heard there hasn't been. But you have to understand. You also have to realize that I'm a bad meditator, you said. What does that mean? My mind goes off all the time. I can't focus. But that's not called bad meditator. You have to also change your language. There isn't good and bad. There's only practice. And practice begins to build the ability. It's the ability, I've made it very simple. And I found in all traditions, mystical, religious, all meditation from the ancient times to the present times, it's based on 2 factors: being present and aware and guiding the mind. You guide the mind in 100 different techniques, but you have to be present first and aware. And then you guide the mind. You might guide it with mantras, sacred words that have vibrations that quiet the mind. You might guide it very often just with the breath. You might guide it with visualizations. You might guide it with affirmations, positive things in your mind. You might guide it with tuning in subtly to like your vitality and the energy in your body. But it's always going to be being present and aware, and then the function to guide your mind, which means your awareness. And very often in meditation, it's inwardly, while mindfulness means all things in life, being present and aware and available to be in life, being mindful. So it's just building the ability to be present, be mindful, and guide the mind. And you guide the mind to the best place. What is the best place? In you, in me. Where is the best places in you? Inwardly. Think about it.
Or my heart.
That's beautiful, of course. That's why now science, psychology says practice gratitude. Guide the mind first thing in the morning. I do this now because every single thing I work with a client and teach, I have to practice every day. So I have my own practices I learned as a monk. I continue those, but every single practice I do with a client, I practice every day. It has to serve me, otherwise it won't serve the client. Right. So I practice gratitude first thing in the morning when I wake up. I count 10 things I'm grateful for. Sometimes it's mechanical. Sometimes it's very deep. If I don't do that, I will be like everybody else. What happens when you first wake up? Oh my God, what's happening with the coronavirus? Turn on my phone. Or what's happening with the stock market because all my millions are dwindling away. Right. Or my thousands, or my God, what are we going to hear today for the self-employed? Are we going to get any money to be able to live?
Yeah.
Okay, my mind's going to go there, past or future. So I have trained my mind. First thing when I wake up, this is my practice, one of them. I focus on what am I grateful for? And I always get a little, because when you are grateful, where do you experience gratitude if you tuned in? Let's do the practice now. You can close your eyes. Each one of us can just have fun and count 10 things you're grateful for. I do it with my hand like a child counting, thumb first, second finger, third. So first thing, you can do that too. Your hands are resting in your lap. Your eyes are closed. Thumb first. I'm grateful for, silently say that. Family members, most people, or even if they're far away, you love them. I'm grateful. You can even count a few of them. Next finger. I'm grateful for the sun, it's shining, or anything in nature, sun, birds, soft air, clouds, warmth. I'm grateful for whatever I have now, the little food or a lot of food in my pantry. And you just go through it. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Or a deep spirituality. I'm grateful for what I have in my life. Some people will tune into their spiritual master or their religious belief. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Even if you've touched it a little bit, where do you experience it? I'm sure you would say your heart.
Yeah, heart and chest.
Yeah, so again, you've guided the mind to the best place. So there's many levels I call best place. That's one of them. And so I teach clients to do these practices. I guess maybe they enjoy because I'm a good storyteller. I try to give inspiration. And sometimes with different clients, you have to tune into specific practices that will match their challenges or their disposition. But, you know, it's very simple, the practices, but every day. And I would say right now I'm meeting with many clients for just 15 minutes of the day. I do 15-minute clips.
Okay.
And it's to help them build the practice. So we just meet for 15 minutes because they're built, even though they sitting at home, but they have so much to do. Well, that's their life anyway.
Yeah.
So they love it. They get it in 15 minutes. So I would say the key is every day, it could just be 5 minutes. A really nice formula, if possible. Begin your day with a little bit, some practice. Yeah, there's so many. Tune in the middle of the day for a few minutes and at the end of the day. If you do that, there will be a transformation. It's like the day is protected and you've been resourced. And they call that the inner wealth, because right now we might not have outer wealth, but the inner depth wealth we all have.
Yeah.
And I've also worked with people who maybe are very unwell, but they can still connect to the best parts of themselves. Even if it's very sad, it's the end of their life. I've worked with some clients clinically, you know, it is end of life care. And my practice I offer them is, okay, let's find ways to resource ourselves, because we live inside of ourselves, yes.
Yeah.
We live in a house or an apartment or a room, maybe even on the street, but we really live inside of ourselves, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just where, you know, in this conversation where I'm going now.
No, that's brilliant. And I think having sort of experimented with different times of day, doing some sort of, I often refer to it as a restorative practice. And
Yeah,
because
very good.
it does kind of, I find that doing a meditation during the middle of the day, when it gets to 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I'm a different person compared to if I haven't.
Yeah.
Because knowing me, if I don't do that, I just work through lunch.
Yeah, we and the first step to that is become aware and then guide yourself to connect. You can use that theme again, to your best part. And it's a simple formula. And we can all do it in creative ways. And of course, we can get inspiration from, you know, podcasts. We get it, there's 1,001. And we can get, sometimes if we want support directly, it's also there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. There's so much to go away and think about, David. I've really enjoyed your answers, and they've deeply resonated. Is there anything that you would like to conclude with? Anything that you'd like to re-emphasize, or anything that we haven't touched on that you think is appropriate based on the conversation so far?
Just a reminder again that when you first wake up in the morning, connect.
Yeah.
And again, take a moment and stop during the day, become aware and connect. And again, at the end of the day, before you go to bed, become aware, connect to the best parts. And we and learn how to build the skill.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Patience.
Yeah, and a little bit goes a long way. Big time. Just a little bit. We're talking minutes. 5-minute moments. It's so powerful.
Yeah, and that just sort of brings a thought up ultimately, which is someone who is very committed to their physical health and physical exercise. You know, some of those people will find the 5 minutes to do a little bit of exercise because they appreciate and they know the benefits that they get from it. And it's no different really to going and doing our 5 minutes of connection, meditation, mindfulness, whatever it may be. It's just that maybe that little flip in how we are perceiving it.
Well, we take care of the body, but we can also take care of our mind and our emotional world. Yeah. We have that power and we can gain it back. And that's what, we're sharing about. And we gain it back by learning and practicing, and I'm available to help, and there's so many others available to help.
Excellent. So on that note, what is the best way for people to reach out if they've listened to you now and they think, oh my God, I need to speak with David? Where's the best way to contact you?
Well, I can give my email address, and maybe when you put up the podcast, you'll have it there.
Yep, perfect. Okay, I can add that to the show notes.
I'll just say it, but I think it is better. It'll be on the notes because you always get one letter wrong with emails.
Yeah.
It's David, David, all lowercase, David, then my last name, Behrens, BEHRENS 108 at yahoo.com.
Perfect. And I'll add it to the show notes. So if people, for whatever reason, did get it wrong, then they'll be able to see it there as well.
Yeah, and I know that I'm available of course, I'll read everything that's offered to me, and I'll try to find ways to support you, from ideas to formally supporting whatever. I think this is a time where I think all of our hearts are opening more to, we want to serve and take care of ourselves and also serve humanity. And that's what I did as a monk. And once again, I'm doing it. And that's my life.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you today. This is going to go out very soon, so people can have a listen and get some inspiration from your experience and insights. So thank you for sparing some time today, and hopefully we'll connect again.
Take care. Thank you so much.